Indonesian President Joko Widodo is scheduled to visit China this week, making him the first foreign head of state to visit the country after the Beijing Winter Olympic Games. China is also Widodo's first stop on his first trip to East Asia since the COVID-19 pandemic began. What inspired the trip and what's the significance of China-Indonesia ties in the region? How are Belt and Road Initiative projects strengthening cooperation? Earlier, I talked to Jusuf Wanandi, Vice Chair of the Board of Trustees at the Indonesia Center for Strategic and International Studies Foundation from Jakarta. Mr. Wanandi, thank you very much for joining us. On July the 11th, Indonesian President Joko Widodo met with visiting Chinese State Councillor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi, and both sides mentioned the construction of the Jakarta-Bandung HighSpeed Railway, which is a landmark Belt and Road Initiative project. So what's the significance of that railway project and how is the construction progressing according to your knowledge?
Well, for us, of course, the establishment of such a railway system is a new one and a modernizing actually Indonesia by a jump, and that's very important. But also, of course, this is the project that is so important for both of us, China and Indonesia, and that's why we would like to participate in the BRI projects, as you know, and this is the first one. Well, unfortunately, I have to admit, there was some delay, and basically because of the problems of the piece of land. Piece of land, not only the ownership that was at the beginning, but also, you know, that the piece of land is difficult because of the volcanoes and etc. to really be on the safe side, having that ready. So, but we are looking forward that as planned, that we have to have it ready within the next 2 years. So we hope that we can really have it, you know, and be part of it in the BRI project.
According to a poll released by an Australian think tank, only 43% of Indonesians say they felt China's growth was good for Indonesia, down from 54% in 2011. Do you think the poll reflects the real public opinions in the country? Has there been a decline in the favorability in the eyes of Indonesians of China?
Well, I don't think so from the Indonesian side. This is an Australian poll. And you know polls is just a moment of time that you take it and maybe valid for that moment. But then it can have a lot of questions as well. So I don't want to really go in depth to that, you know, because we are doing many polls ourselves for our domestic politics too. And you always have to take a lot of grain of salt, you know, to see the results. That is one. And mind you, we know Australia itself, of course, is a schizophrenic nation. In the sense, you know, their mind is in New York or Washington, D.C., their heart is in London, but their stomach is in Asia. And they must be realizing that. I hope, earlier than later, that economic part is so important and more important than anything else in our part of the world.
In May, you met with the Chinese ambassador to Indonesia, Lu Kang, and you agreed to strengthen cooperation between think tanks of the two countries in poverty reduction and education, among other things, of course. But these are the few areas that have been given special spotlight. Why these areas, and what are your takeaways from China's poverty alleviation efforts?
Well, as a matter of fact, education is, of course, very important, and we have to know more about China. There's no doubt about that. And we have not done our part to know China better than actually has to be, you know, as a partner of China. That is number one. But on the poverty alleviation. We are struck by how much China has done and so consistent. I think it already started under your former leaders, of course, including from the beginning, Mao Zedong. Always alleviating poverty is an important program of China. But of course, President Xi in the last 10 years has done tremendously. And if I look, what he has done, he has visited all these regions that are going through this process and this program. He went there in the last 10 years at least 50 times to see himself what has been done. He has spent so much money also and investment in really getting it moving. He has spent so many people involved, the party cadre, but also the common people, how to participate in this alleviation. And we are actually, you have to be proud of it, and we would like to emulate that. But mind you, we are not on that par. So we have partly and maybe slowly to emulate what is possible. But we have to try. And we are doing some work, hopefully, in the near future with Fudan University on this issue.
Oh, these are very nice words, very kind words. Thank you very much for such high remarks. But the world is in a very difficult situation for obvious reasons. There are a lot of competition, rivalry going on, and especially concerning China. The competition that the United States sees with China, and it insists on competing with China. So, what is your understanding of what has happened, what has gone wrong? That something has gone wrong, obviously, that we are seeing what we're seeing today. And what do people need to understand if we are to come back to the more important things the world's need, especially the developing world need: peace, development, stability, prosperity, jobs, so on and so forth?
Yes, sir. Well, two things. One is domestic. Of course, there is a domestic part in it, that the countries themselves has to take care of their own societies. And that has been lacking sometimes. And especially you can see that in the developed part, including the United States. They have to get their act together domestically. We cannot do very much about it. But also internationally, there is a lack of cooperation now. Multilateralism is the motto of President Xi, and we have to go after that. We must implement that. And that has been shown also in the foreign ministers meeting of the G20 in Bali about a week ago. That multilateralism is lacking. We don't pay attention anymore to the others. We would like just to concentrate on ourselves. And that is not going to help, because then nobody can do it. And that, I think, is an awareness that we have to create. And then reform institutions that is already out of date. And third is leadership, which is lacking because of the division among us, but also because, with due respect to the United States, of which I have studied quite a lot, it is their leadership that is lacking. Partly, and I'm much more. Now doing studies on China instead, because of the fact that you have done a better job, and we have to follow that.
In May, U.S. President Joe Biden hosted ASEAN leaders for a special summit, and senior U.S. officials visited Southeast Asian nations several times. And some are saying that the U.S. is compelling ASEAN countries to choose sides. Do you feel, do Indonesian or ASEAN countries feel the pressure from Washington to choose sides? And is there a way to balance these two relationships?
Well, as you know, we have this is an old, actually historical fact that our leaders, in the revolution has already put down these principles of non-alignment. and that we must not take sides because there is no reason we should do that. We could do with both of them, or with many of them, and that is the motto and the belief and the practice that we are trying to do. So in our part of the world, as you know, we are trying with China to establish this Law of the Sea Convention, acceptance through our, bilateral ASEAN China meetings and work. We were very much involved in that in the South China Sea, and that is one example, where we should do and do our part, and can do that without doubts that we are going to hurt the United States or not. That is our problem and not theirs problem, actually, according to us.
Finally, later this year, the Communist Party of China will convene its 20th National Congress in Beijing. How do you look forward to the meeting? What are your expectations of the potential impact this meeting is going to have on China and, of course, the region?
Well, as you know, we hope that what happened in China and the good things that China has done will be emulated by us in the future. We can become part of that. And we're trying to do that, and therefore, what the CPC's, Congress and the future of CPC and the role of CPC that she is playing is critical to China and to us too. We cannot not only not escape, but we have to be more participating, according to me, to make this as a whole holy cooperation, especially of East Asian countries, but also of the rest of the world.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jusuf Wanandi, Vice Chair of the Board of Trustees of CSIS Foundation. It's a great pleasure to have talked to you.